Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation J VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'll be showcasing Arceus with a Life Orb and Swords Dance. Arceus has never been legal in a VGC format, because while we had a mythical format at the end of Sword and Shield, Arceus wasn't actually in Sword and Shield. So for the very first time, we can use this Pokemon in VGC, and it is one of the most flexible Pokemon of all time because of all of the different types and moves that you can use on it. This set is very straightforward. It aims to just hit as hard as possible. You get a Swords Dance up, you normal Tera, and you extreme speed everything. It's like combinations like Dragonite plus Chien-Pao or Rayquaza plus Chien-Pao, but now you get an even stronger option because, of course, Arceus has that same type attack bonus, and that is often enough with Sword of Ruin to get you knockouts, which is really awesome. At +2, it feels like there's basically nothing that can actually take the extreme speed when in Sword of Ruin unless you resist it or are completely immune to it. This team actually reached rank number 1 on the ladder as well, and so it's just a really powerful team that maximizes Arceus' value. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get started. If you're interested in trying out the team, the rental code is on the screen, and there's also an accompanying PokePaste down in the description below. The idea behind this team is simple. You hit as hard as possible using combinations like Swords Dance, Arceus with the normal Tera Extreme Speed, Choice Specs Miraidon, and Choice Scarf Landorus. Chien-Pao, of course, is an amazing partner for Arceus because, first of all, with Sword of Ruin, you are really able to turn 2-hit knockouts into 1-hit knockouts, and you have Dark-type coverage, which is really good in dealing with the Ghost types that Arceus generally struggles against. You've got Incineroar and Ferrograph for support options. Incin is such a nice lead option with Arceus because you can just go Fake Out Swords Dance turn 1, turn 2, switch in Chien-Pao, normal Tera Extreme Speed, get a knockout, and then play the game from there. Ferrograph is really nice as well, as it's a great partner for Miraidon. You are able to block fake outs, allowing you to just go for a Helping Hand plus an immediate attack with Miraidon, and the Helping Hand can also boost Arceus' damage output. Ferrograph also gives you another immunity to Ghost type damage, so it's a really strong bring into Calyrex Shadow Rider teams. Overall, the team just has so much offense, and almost everything can hit really hard, but if you are able to get a Swords Dance up with Arceus, it often will be able to just carry the game for you. For some quick context, I actually saw this team on the VGC subreddit posted by a user called Mushy, and they were able to reach rank number 1 on the in-game ladder with this team, so huge thank you to them for sharing this team, and congratulations to them for reaching rank number 1. Arceus, of course, has been on my to-try list ever since I knew this format was legal, and we're actually probably going to be using a ton of different Arceus teams in the next couple of months because it is maybe the most flexible Pokemon that's ever existed in VGC, given all of the different types and Teras and moves that you can use on it. But I think to start things off with the basics, this is truly just one of the most powerful, intuitive ways to run the Pokemon. And so, yeah, I thought it was really cool for them to not only, of course, reach rank number 1, but share it publicly with everyone. So huge congratulations to them, and I'm eager to showcase what this team can do. Breaking down the team, the first Pokemon we have to highlight, of course, is Arceus. Question of the day, by the way, I want to know what your favorite Pokemon song is down in the comment section below. Now, Arceus honestly feels unbalanced often when you use this team because it can just one-shot almost anything in the format after it gets a Swords Dance up. This set is really straightforward. You want to click Swords Dance, get to +2, and then go normal Tera Extreme Speed. At +2, with Life Orb, with normal Tera, with Sword of Ruin, you are able to one-hit KO what feels like almost anything in the format. Basically, if you don't resist normal type attacks or are immune to it, you are really going to struggle. An example is even max HP 4 defense Calyrex Ice Rider is guaranteed one-hit KO'd by the normal Tera Extreme Speed Life Orb combo in Sword of Ruin. So it's just absolutely nuts to think about. And that's, a very defensive Pokemon. You also have Shadow Claw on this set, which allows you to, of course, hit Ghost types, which otherwise will give Arceus some trouble. This is mainly going to be helpful into Pokemon like Fluttermane, Calyrex Shadow Rider, as well as Lunala. Otherwise, this Arceus is really straightforward, and it just has such incredible stats, right? Base 120 across the board, and so you're invested heavily in HP here, which I really like, because most of the time you want to click Extreme Speed anyway, and so it doesn't matter if you have a lot of speed investment or not. It's just an absolutely awesome Pokemon to use, and it's so satisfying going for normal Tera Extreme Speed. You may have been used to seeing normal Tera Extreme Speed from things like Dragonite. I even featured a Rayquaza team in the previous regulation, but Arceus feels even stronger because, of course, it is already normal type, so the same type attack bonus with that extra multiplier is really able to take it over the edge. I think often when I would use something like Dragonites, I go, Dragonite can do like 90% of the damage, but you need to combo it with a little bit of chip damage, like a Sucker Punch from Chien-Pao. Well, the nice thing about Arceus is that it by itself can get that one-hit knockout often, and so it is just such a powerful Pokemon. Chien-Pao, of course, is going to be the primary partner for it. This is a Focus Sash set. I've also seen like Assault Vest Chien-Pao with Ruination and Icy Wind being used to support Arceus, but I think, Focus Sash Chien-Pao, of course, is really consistent. Stellar Tera here just gives you a little bit of extra damage output, of course, on all of your moves. And so this is nice because you can go Stellar into Zamazenta, which otherwise is one of the biggest counters to Arceus, and Stellar Sacred Sword into Sacred Sword will be enough to knock out the Zamazenta. Otherwise, Chien-Pao here is going to be max speed, and so this gives you an edge against any Miraidon or Koraidon, of course, that's not max speed, as well as non-max speed Flutter Mains, for example, although that would be pretty rare to go up against. Otherwise, fairly straightforward moveset in Icicle Crash, Sucker Punch, Sacred Sword. One thing to note here is that you don't have something like Crunch, and so you have to be a little bit careful because you're not able to threaten, for example, a one-hit knockout onto something like Shadow Rider or Lunala if they don't go for an attacking move, because, of course, they can avoid your Sucker Punch by going for a non-attacking move. Arceus Chien-Pao is a really powerful combination on this team, and you can lead it immediately because Arceus doesn't even necessarily need Swords Dance. Like, there are a lot of times where you can just go Sucker Punch into Extreme Speed, and double up onto something for a knockout immediately. If you want to set up that Swords Dance, Incineroar is going to be one of the best partners for Arceus. Very straightforward. Lead Incineroar Arceus, get an Intimidate off, go fake out Swords Dance immediately on turn 1, and then turn 2, you can either, go for a Protect and get some damage with Incin, or hard switch Incineroar into Chien-Pao, drop your opponent's defense, and then start just going for normal Tera Extreme Speed. That's one of my favorite combos with this team. So Incineroar is just really nice because it's bulky, of course, and if you think about the things that beat Arceus, it's going to be Ghost types and Steel types, and Incineroar obviously can hit both of those for really good damage with Knockoff and Flare Blitz, and so this is really just one of the perfect partners to complement this core. Otherwise, the other restricted of choice on this team is going to be Miraidon. I love this Miraidon because it's just max speed, max special attack. We've seen Choice Specs Miraidon be used a ton, of course, since this got introduced to VGC, and the EV spreads have really varied. Some people run like no speed on it, some people run near max speed. This is actually timid max speed, so you really, really are as fast as possible. And I really like it because I think with this, you just get a huge edge against a lot of opposing Miraidons and Koraidons. There's so many Pokemon that are at the base 135 speed stat, and so being able to outspeed opposing Miraidons, forcing them to Tera first is a big deal. I think with this team, getting your opponent to Tera sooner than later is huge because then it means that they can't go for a defensive Tera against Arceus a lot of the times. And so, yeah, I think that the max speed on this is so nice and allows you to just attack with more confidence often, especially into the other Pokemon that are base 135. Farigiraf, of course, is naturally one of the best partners for Miraidon with Choice Specs because you can block Fake Outs with your Armor Tail. This Farigiraf, of course, is very support-oriented, but Psychic and Foul Play still do great damage, and so you can bring this out if you see, for example, Calyrex Ice Rider on your opponent's team, or Amoonguss. Psychic and Foul Play both are really threatening in terms of damage, and Helping Hand, of course, allows you to just further your damage output. So, for example, you can go like Farigiraf Miraidon, Helping Hand Volt Switch, knock something out, bring out Arceus, Helping Hand Normal Tera Extreme Speed. It just gives you another, multiplier on top of the multipliers that already exist on this team. Just be a little bit cautious when you use Farigiraf because Trick Room is actually not the most intuitive move to click a lot of the times because you're so fast with Miraidon and Chien-Pao and Landorus, but there are positions where you could use Farigiraf to set up your own Trick Room if your opponent has Tailwind, or even use Farigiraf to reverse your opponent's Trick Room. The final Pokemon on this team is Choice Scarf Landorus, and this Scarf Landorus is also timid max speed. I like this a lot because it means that way even if you go up against like Jolly max speed or Shifu with Choice Scarf, you will still outpace it. And Landorus often feels like a restricted Pokemon into teams that just don't have great resistances to ground, right? So this is going to be a really good pick into your opposing Miraidons in particular. It's really good if your opponent has multiple Fire-type Pokemon on their team. And once again, if you think about things that Arceus doesn't love going up against, well, Steel types are kind of a problem. And on this team, you've already have Incineroar and Chien-Pao with Flare Blitz and Sacred Sword, but an even better option in that Earth Power here. This is especially important because Zamazenta, as mentioned, is one of the biggest counters to Arceus, and so Landorus is really nice in being able to pressure Zamazenta for a ton of damage and often even force it to Tera. You've got U-Turn as well, which I actually really like as a fourth move because this allows you to just break Focus Sashes, right? If you lead Landorus and you're up against something like a Chien-Pao, you can U-Turn out, break its Sash before it gets a move off, switch it Incineroar, they don't really get any damage off, and suddenly they're in a much tougher position. So this is nice mainly from a pivoting perspective, but can be very, very handy and otherwise classic moves in Sandsear, Earth Power, and Sludge Bomb. tons of ways to play with the team. I think if you want to go with an Arceus sweep mode, Incin Arceus with Chien-Pao Miraidon in the back is really powerful. Of course, Miraidon Farigiraf is really powerful. If you want to just maximize damage output, you could go with like Miraidon, Chien-Pao Landorus, Arceus, like any combination of those. Pao Arceus means you're leaning more on the physical side. Miraidon Landorus means you're very fast, but leaning more on the special side. And of course, you can mix and match as well. There are times where I'll lead like Miraidon Arceus where I think Miraidon can get a knockout onto something, and then Arceus can Swords Dance while the remaining Pokemon on your opponent's field can't really threaten with too much. Of course, you can go like Incin Miraidon, Incin Landorus. So there's just so many different combos of damage with this team, but generally I think Incin Arceus, Miraidon Farigiraf, Pao Arceus are some of the leads I consider the most, and then leading Landorus if I think that my opponent has no Pokemon that can really outpace it, and this can often, threaten Miraidon teams in particular. In terms of things to watch out for, Arceus definitely has to be wary of going up against bulky Steel-type Pokemon and Ghost-type Pokemon / Teras. So, for example, if you are set up with normal Tera Extreme Speed, it often does feel like you can just run away with the game, but if your opponent goes for Ghost Tera as you Extreme Speed, you don't get any damage off that turn, and that makes you really, really vulnerable. Choice Band Urshifu with Close Combat is probably one of the best examples of this, where with Ghost Tera, you just become immune to that Extreme Speed and pressure with a knockout immediately in return. Zamazenta is one of the absolute, if not the #1 Pokemon that you can use in this format to beat this kind of Arceus, because you just do no damage, and Arceus actually often feels like a liability. Otherwise, Ghost-type Pokemon can be annoying. Yes, you have Shadow Claw on this Arceus, but for example, Focus Sash Fluttermane, Focus Sash Calyrex, they can take a Shadow Claw, and they will still outpace you in the subsequent turn and be able to threaten you with knockouts, right? And so those can all be annoying for Arceus to deal with. Otherwise, blocking priority is going to be a really big deal, so having an Indeedee to set up Psychic Terrain, having a Farigiraf on your team can also make this Arceus a lot weaker. And so those are a couple of ways that you can consider countering this, but if you want just one Pokemon that beats Arceus, you should definitely consider Zamazenta. Otherwise, just strong fighting type damage is good, and Ghost Tera is also really valuable in making sure that Arceus is not able to actually leverage Extreme Speed. Just keep in mind that, like, if you Ghost Tera, you really want to make sure that turn you are responding to Arceus, because, like the Urshifu example I gave, well, if you go for Ghost Tera, but then you don't actually shut down Arceus, it can just Shadow Claw you in the subsequent turn. So a timely Ghost Tera and responding to Arceus with, for example, a knockout can be absolutely huge. Otherwise, things to know, I think this team generally struggles a little bit against hard Trick Room, especially like the Magearna, Indeedee, Ice Rider teams, because Indeedee, of course, just blocks the Extreme Speed, gets rid of the terrain for Miraidon, and Miraidon is very weak into both Magearna plus Ice Rider. So Magearna plus Ice Rider can often just spam Glacial Lance plus Dazzling Gleam and be able to knock out like everything on this team. And then Miraidon and Landorus don't really have bulk to work with, and so you have to be careful about that as well. And I think just Pokemon that are really fast-paced and like can threaten you with a lot of offense can be scary. Like, I find Fluttermane plus Koraidon to be a pretty scary duo, because if it gets this right, it often can just like nuke things down fairly quickly. And so yeah, like even stronger offense and faster offense to respond to what is already fast and strong offense on this side can be spooky. All right, we've got Koraidon, Incin, Amoonguss, Flutter, Clefairy, Shadow Rider. So Flutter Koraidon's obviously super spooky. Flutter Koraidon makes me want to lead Incin. I think we can go Incin Arceus in this one. Just wondering if it's ever a Trick Room angle with Farigiraf, but I think it could be Incin Arceus, Chien-Pao Miraidon, with the idea that Arceus just Swords Dances and then Extreme Speeds. And we have Shadow Claw for the Ghost types as well. Have to like respect potential Encore from Shadow Rider locking us into Extreme Speed. It is Flutter Koraidon, which is the lead I was hoping to see. My main debate here is, do I go for Fake Out Swords Dance on turn 1? I could Fake Out Shadow Claw as well. I think it's probably okay to Fake Out Swords Dance. Sash Fluttermane is kind of annoying though, honestly. Clear Amulet, okay. I guess that's fine. Fake Out into you, Swords Dance turn 1. Koraidon actually protects, trying to block Fake Out, which makes sense. Okay, Blast into Arceus. Yeah, that doesn't do a lot. Nice. I mean, that's fine then, I think. Question is how bulky Korai is. Like, I'm mainly debating whether or not I need to switch in Chimp how to activate Sword of Ruin and get the knockout. And then I can break Sash with Flutter Mane here. I am leaning towards switching here, so I'm going to switch Tera Extreme Speed. Because once we eliminate the Koraidon, like, Incineroar and Chimp are just way stronger. So let's see. They don't switch, so it should be a knockout on a Koraidon. Yeah, the fact Moonblast did only like a third, I think was good for us. Conserving Incineroar also gives me good answers into the Shadow Rider later on. Beautiful, so we get Life Orb, normal Tera, E-Speed, +2, Sword of Ruin. And that one-shots Koraidon. Awesome. Koraidon is just such a big threat offensively to us in this matchup, because fighting type damage is super effective against almost all of our Pokemon. So, cool. And they Moonblast into the Chimp slot. I don't mind that because we have Focus Sash. I think in that turn, I don't want it to risk it being super, super defensive Koraidon, and so I just wanted to like guarantee with Sword of Ruin, especially because they're a clear Amulet instead of Life Orb. Amoonguss comes in, which is fine by me. 3 turns of Sunlight left. Can set up Terrain, obviously. Amoonguss can Rage Powder. I think this turn I'm leaning towards just double protecting to scout out for what they want to do. I could also protect Extreme Speed into Amoonguss. Some consideration. I'd love to knock out Flutter Mane, ideally. Okay, I'm gonna go protect E-Speed. See if Amoonguss protects. Nice, they don't. Okay, so Arceus gets another boosted Extreme Speed off, and this is why you use this Pokemon. KO after KO. Very nice. See if they Moonblast into Arceus slot. They did. So I could have Sucker Punch there, actually. But Arceus still manages to survive, which is nice. Calyrex going to be the last one. It's funny, I actually think, yeah, if we had Farigiraf over Miraidon in this endgame, I'd be in a better spot, wildly enough, which is not what you would always expect. Only one of these can carry Focus Sash, which is also interesting. I don't mind Sucker Punching here. They haven't committed Tera yet, but they have to be careful about Terraing, because then it opens Arceus to be able to just Extreme Speed you. I'm gonna go for Sucker onto the Flutter Mane here and protect with Arceus. And Calyrex protects, nice. It could be a double protect from their end. No, it can't be, right? Because Flutter would have protected first, yeah. Awesome. We get Sucker Punch off. And they just Dazzling Gleam, cool. So this grants me the free switch it into Incineroar. My main question is actually whether or not they consider Terraing right now. I'm not going to fake out here. Do a Flare Blitz in Sun. It's the last turn of Sunlight. Miraidon's the last one. I mainly don't want to give Calyrex a special attack boost. Depends on the item that it has. My guess is that it's Life Orbed. Okay, I actually think it's okay to knock off Calyrex and Extreme Speed it here. And there's the Tera. Show me Tera Calyrex. Tera Dark Calyrex. Okay. Or Fairy, that works too. So the idea behind going for E-Speed here is I know I'm slower with Arceus anyway, right? So I might as well just get one attack off and it covers for Tera. And if you don't Tera, your Calyrex just eats up a knockoff. My guess is that Focus Sash is on the Flutter Mane here, right? Because I thought that if they had Focus Sash on Calyrex, they would have Terra'd last turn. Or sorry, they would have just attacked last turn. But Sash Flutter Mane is normally what you see on these Sun teams. So that worked out perfectly. That being said, the Flutter is bulky, right? Like, if it were Sash, then Sucker Punch should have brought it down to Sash. But it wasn't Focus Sash on Flutter either. Maybe it's Booster Flutter. Sorry, it wasn't Focus Sash on Shadow Rider. But yeah, Arceus was absolutely amazing here. And in a matchup where I think... okay, Sash was on the Flutter. Perfect. But yeah, basically, I was like, look, if you are... Like, the one way I could lose is if that turn goes wrong for me. Even though we had a really good start, like, Flutter and the Shadow Rider are just so fast. And so I was like, okay, if you go for Tera there with your Calyrex survives the turn and then gets a special attack boost, then suddenly I bring out Miraidon, and Miraidon might just fold to you in the subsequent turn, especially with them being Fairy Tera. Like maybe like +1 Fairy Tera, you know, Life Orb Draining Kiss, for example, can KO Miraidon. So that's what I was spooked out about. And since Calyrex already revealed Protect last turn, like that play doesn't work out for me if it's specifically Focus Sash on Calyrex. But like I said, I was making a calculated decision that Focus Sash was probably more likely on Flutter mains, since this is Flutter Koraidon, and I think Sash is by far the best item on Flutter there. And as a result, if you don't Tera, then I KO you with Knockoff. If you Tera, I KO you with Extreme Speed. So it worked out even better because they Tera'd. But that was one of those unique scenarios where I think it was actually optimal to go for that play. Yes, I have Shadow Claw. Yes, they have 2 Ghost types, but Arceus's HP is just way too low at that point. But this is what Arceus can do. Literally just one-shot everything after Swords Dance. Kyogre Ice Rider here with Rillaboom, Valiant, Incineroar, and Volcarona. No Ghost types, no Steel types, no resistances in general, but you have to worry about Intimidate, Fake Out. Valiant can obviously go for Fighting type damage onto us as well. If I'm my opponent, I'm going Rilla, Kyogre, Ice Rider +1. I probably wouldn't bring Volcarona. So it'd be Valiant or Incineroar. I'd consider even leading Incineroar if I were them. Double Fake Out makes me think a little bit more about Frigoraph lead. It's Water Terra Frig, so it's actually not bad into the restricteds. I think alternatively, I'm thinking Incin Arceus, Chien-Pao, Miraidon. You can make an argument for Frigoraph here, but it's just like, I'm not sure I needed to set up Trick Room. Some more support oriented, should I bring it? Like with Helping Hand? Valiant Calyrex, okay. That works for me. See if they're clearing Amulet. If not, I think this is a very clear Fake Out the Valiant turn 1 and just Swords Dance. I'm hoping this means that they didn't bring Incineroar, because you probably want Rillaboom as your 4th. So like Rilla Kyogre. Yep, clear Amulet. Booster Energy. Okay. I mean, Aura Sphere is like the main fighting type attack to worry about. Thinking about Fake Out Calyrex. Swords Dance here. I just don't know what moves the Valiant is running. Like, you get so many supportive moves. Icy Wind, Wide Guard, Coaching. I guess Coaching would be annoying though, so yeah. I'll just Fake Out Swords Dance. And Calyrex protects. Nice. Glad I redirected that Fake Out into Valiant. This should put them in a really tough spot immediately, I think, because now I can just switch in Chien-Pao and normal Tera. Extreme Speed everything. So switch in Pow here, Tera, E-Speed. I think it also was probably acceptable to just stay in here, knock out the Valiant, and then get a knockoff onto the Ice Rider. But one-shotting Ice Rider with this is so satisfying. So let's see. They're staying in, which is a good sign. So unless you're Ghost or Steel Tera, or I guess like Rock Tera, but none of those are common on Ice Rider. It is going to be a Tera commit. Okay, into what? Tera Ice Rider. Fire. Sweet. That is fine by me. Not going to help them out against the extreme speed, of course. Would have helped out against Incineroar, though. But now we get Life Orb, Sword of Ruin, +2, normal Tera, extreme speed. Oh my goodness. The fact you can one-shot an Ice Rider with extreme speed is just nuts. And it's actually Destiny Bond on the Valiant. Okay, that's a cool tech move. Destiny Bond is another support move like Wide Guard, Icy Wind, Coaching, Spirit Break for offense, Aura Sphere. And they actually did bring Volcarona, huh? Can't say I expected that. Okay. That works for me. I think we can just E-speed this. Ice Skull Crash this. Yeah, I think Arceus just one-shots everything now. Beautiful. And we still have Kyogre in the back, right? Or sorry, they have Kyogre in the back, but we have Miraidon. So as soon as we knocked out Ice Rider, I felt like this game was in very good control. Especially with the lack of a fighting type attack. And they try to Coaching, yeah. This is like the downside of running just a fully supportive Valiant set. We miss Ice Skull Crash, but that's fine. Like, I can just ignore the Valiant, right? So that's why I was saying, like, coming into the game, my main question is, do you have a fighting type attack? If not, then you really struggle. So, just go for Crash once more on a Valiant and Extreme Speed on a Kyogre. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad we got to showcase the +2 normal Tera Life Orb Sword of Ruin Extreme Speed into one-shotting Ice Rider, because I think that's one of the craziest calcs that exists out there when you use this Pokemon in this set. I need to pull up this damage calc just to show all of you. This is a guaranteed one-hit knockout onto max HP for defense Calyrex Ice Rider, which is absolutely nuts. And so even if you have some defense investment, right, like 60 defensive EVs, it's still a one-hit knockout. It's just nuts. Like, you have to be super, super defensive in order to even have a chance of surviving here. Like, let's say you're max HP, max defense, which no one really ever runs. Then you have a chance of surviving, but it's still over a 50% chance to one-shot. So this is truly just like one of the most powerful combos that you can have within the game. And Calyrex obviously is a very defensive Pokemon, but nothing can really withstand this Arceus if you don't have a resistance or immunity. Uh-oh, Zamazenta Lunala. That surely can't be a good matchup for us. Not a common restricted duel at all that we saw in Regulation I either. Roaring Moon, Volk, Chien-Pao, Moongus. Very cool team. I think this is going to be exceptionally difficult. We do have Shadow Claw, at least, on Arceus. But Arceus is just so weak into Zom. Zom is probably the #1 restricted you can have into this composition, as I mentioned in the weaknesses section. Like, I almost feel like I want to use Landorus to force a Tera out of Zom, maybe. Chien-Pao is needed as well, so it's Arceus Miraidon. Low-key, there's like a world in which we actually drop Arceus. And bring, like, Incineroar instead. Arceus is just completely useless into Mirai, or sorry, into Zamazenta, which is why I'm thinking about this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it, honestly. Instant is just so much better into Lunala. I mean, I guess the logic is, if I'm thinking about that, then like Arceus is also okay into Lunala because I'm like immune to Moongeist Beam. Powzom, okay. I don't mind this too much, actually. I think the debate is, do I play 50-50 speed tie on turn 1? So I'm thinking I can... I mean, I honestly want to double up on a Chien-Pao turn 1 with like U-turn Sacred Sword. If I were my opponent, I would probably protect Chien-Pao and Tera Zamazenta defensively right now. But if we can knock out Chien-Pao, it does open the door up for us with Miraidon. Yeah, I'm gonna U-turn Sacred Sword. Zom protects. Okay. That's a great start already. Nice. That is huge, because now I get to pivot in Incineroar, which also gives me Fake Out next turn. This is exactly why I wanted to drop Arceus in the matchup, because it's like, my opponent leads Zamazenta. When does Arceus ever hit the field? If I lead it, it's just completely wrecked. They're probably going to go for an Ice-type attack here into Landorus, and so I think we just pivot in Incineroar. At risk of us speed tying. And I don't want to just eat up an Ice Core Crash and lose my Miraidon. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Spinner, which is fine. It's less damage into Incin even. Beautiful. Yeah, I thought it was relatively safe for my opponent to go Tera Zom turn 1, but this works out really nicely for us. Now my main question is whether or not it's Meteor Beam Lunala. But yeah, I think like if you are going up against Zamazenta with this team, you should actually heavily consider dropping Arceus depending on what the rest of the composition looks like, because you're just very rarely going to be able to do anything with Arceus, right? It kind of just takes up a slot instead. Whereas like Incin provides me more utility right now because 1, it gave me Intimidate onto the Chien-Pao, and 2, it gives me Fake Out immediately this subsequent turn. Stellar Pao is also something to consider, just for a stronger Sacred Sword. But because I know that this is not a good matchup, I think we have to work a little bit harder and find some unique paths to victory. We're obviously off to a really good start, but Body Press still does a ton of damage to my entire team, so I still have to be very cautious. It is Lunala coming out now. I have Bug Tera here. I mean, Bug Tera might actually be worth it. What are the other considerations? Fairy Tera on this, Steel Tera on this. I think Tera Zom could make some sense. They don't... Incin also has Fake Out available this turn. Tera Lunala honestly wouldn't shock me either. Yeah, I actually think I want a Tera Bug here. Knockoff. Sacred Sword. Basically, this is saying something from your end is going to take super effective damage this turn, and once I force out the Tera, it gives me a lot more room to play around. Okay, it's going to be Tera Water Lunala. That's fair. I guess my concern here is they theoretically could Body Press and Meteor... Oh no, but even if you Body Press Meteor Beam, I should survive, I think, with Bug Tera. So let's see. By the way, the Tera Water being committed on Lunala is huge, because now it means I can just go for Electro Drift into you. I think U-turn actually may have been a better play for me this turn. But there's Sacred Sword. Does about half. Okay, Body Press into Pal. That's fine. Yeah, I can't help but think U-turn may have just been game-winning here if Lunala doesn't have Protect. Oh, are they trying to Trick Room? Okay. Then U-turn wouldn't have actually been game-winning there, so I'm glad. But that means now you can't Meteor Beam, which is a pretty huge deal. Oops, let's not try to run. It's actually a very good Trick Room by them. Because I have 2 very fast Pokemon here in the back. Yeah, that was a really good find by them, in my opinion. Now I'm worried about Amoonguss being their last one. Leaning towards Flare Blitzing Zamazenta and protecting with power right now. I also thought about Sucker Punch knockoff into Lunala. If we stall out Trick Room, I think I'll be able to win this game, because Miraidon, and okay, Lunala pivots. It could be Lunala pivot and then Zom protect right now. But Volk's the last one. Okay, I don't hate seeing that. Although I guess with my Incineroar, I'm weak to fire, but that's okay. Flare Blitz with Sword of Ruin. Nice. Huge. Okay. That's great. Yeah, I still feel justified on my decision to not bring Arceus, but with Trick Room up, like Landorus is a little bit less effective. Lunala in. I just protected this. I'm thinking U-turn here, Sucker Punch. Ooh, maybe U-turn just KOs. That would be awesome. I mean, same type attack bonus and Sword of Ruin. Let's go, Incineroar. Nice. My goodness, was Incin good in this game. Like, this was the difference maker, right? Because I was like, oh, do I go Incineroar? Do I go Arceus? Arceus would have been very useless here for us, but we managed to use Incin to force Tera out of Lunala, remove its Power Herb, not one shot, but KO Zamazenta from like the 55% that it was, and be able to get a knockout here. They're probably going to go for a fire type attack, likely Heat Wave. We can just bring out Mirai. It could be a Quiver Dance theoretically from their end as well, but that would be kind of wild. And I think Volk should not have enough firepower to close out this one. Just Fiery Dance, perfect. Okay. Terra's already been queuing on your end, so I don't have to worry about something like Tera Fairy, Tera Blast. So we can just go for Drift here. And Protect to stall out. Actually, because they could theoretically Quiver Dance, I actually don't mind Ice Go crashing. Although Drift should just KO them. No, if they get a Quiver Dance up me, do you even survive Drift? I'm not sure. But either way, it's a 4v1 at that point, right? I have Incin and Scarflando in the back. Volcarona cannot pull off a comeback, I think, from that position. So this was a really satisfying game to demonstrate how, like, it's important to recognize when you should be dropping your restricteds. And, of course, if you played Regulation I, the previous dual restricted format, it was actually quite common to drop a restricted, depending on the matchup. And we saw it in the World Championship Finals, where Gio, who, of course, became our World Champion, did not bring Lunala in any of the 3 games in the World Finals. Sometimes having a restricted can be a slight liability when it matches up really poorly against an opposing Pokemon or multiple Pokemon, and in this matchup, Arceus is just terrible in a Zamazenta, right? Like, even if you get a Swords Dance boost, you're never really doing damage to Zamazenta, and you are facing, like, a potential one-hit knockout from Body Press at any given point. You don't have a defensive Tera either. And, like, Incineroar, which is what we dropped Arceus for, was so much more useful. But part of what I was going for in this matchup was, like, let's get a Tera out from our opponent early and then take advantage of that. So as soon as they committed the Tera on the Lunala, it meant that I could take advantage and hit everything else for super effective. I think Trick Room is actually really clever. Like, I think there's a world in which they don't Trick Room. Like, that's why I was saying maybe I should have U-turned Lunala, because it would have broken Shadow Shield. I didn't know what Tera they were going to be, though, or what kind of Lunala set it even was. But if we U-turn there, and then you, like, Meteor Beam into us, Incin obviously survives the turn before, because we bug Tera. Miraidon hits the field, and then we can just pressure Electro Drift into that slot, plus a Sacred Sword into Zamazenta, for example. But Sacred Sword was not a guaranteed 2-hit knockout. We actually did less than 50% on the first one. And so, yeah, it's not like maybe the game was, like, 100% sealed, even if they didn't click Trick Room. But with them setting up Trick Room, and I can just leverage Incineroar under Trick Room, they maybe had the opportunity to go Protect with Zom, switch in Volcarona that turn, but as soon as Volk fainted, I felt like or Zom fainted, I feel like we were in great shape. And they also could have gone Rage Powder with the Volcarona, but in my head I was like, okay, if you Rage Powder, that means you don't get an attack off with the Volcarona, and that's a pretty big deal in itself. And then, because that means I bring out the Miraidon then, right, with the Incineroar slot, you probably knock out my Chien-Pao, but then Incin comes back in, fake out into Volk, and then I can just Electro Drift into Lunala, and then it's a 3v1 against Volk. Oh, Magearna, Hard Trick Room, and a familiar looking team at that. Of course, I featured this team in a video, linked down in the description below. It was the very first team I started Reg J off with, and I actually think this team is one of the hardest matchups for our composition for a couple of reasons. Arceus is not very good into Magearna, and Ice Rider has incredible, like, sweeping potential. So it's kind of crazy, but what ends up being the solution is actually often leading Landorus, so that you can, like, force Tera out of Magearna. Yeah, this matchup is just so awkward. I'm just debating who to drop, because I actually think it could be Landorus Farigiraf lead. I definitely need Incin. I'm actually going to try this. Landorus Arceus Miraidon Incin. I think it's like Hard Trick Room is really tough. In one of the practice games I had, I went with like Miraidon lead. But Ice Rider under Trick Room just dominated me. Yeah, it's Magearna NDD, which is typically the lead. So basically my theory here is I can go turn 1 Sandsear to force Tera out of Magearna, and then Swords Dance with Arceus. Sandsear, Swords Dance. Okay, Magearna just protects, that's fine. I assume NDD is going to click Trick Room. And then I can pivot in Miraidon and turn off their terrain. Flash Cannon, Dazzling Gleam, Trick Room. Yeah, part of what I wanted to do is intentionally not let them get a free switch in here either, so I'm happy to deny them a switch in. I actually think I don't mind going Incin out, protect this turn. The question right now, if you're my opponent, is do you play passive? Or do you... one of the mark of like a really strong hard Trickerman player is like recognizing when you can switch. Yeah, and they go for it. This is really well done by them. Into Ice Rider, maybe? Smeargle. That's actually okay with me. And I'm hoping they Tera Magearna here, but let's see. Maybe I should have just stayed in with Landorus and Sandseared, honestly, but Incin is just so good into Magearna. They didn't Tera Magearna, so yeah, maybe I could have stayed in. It's just Dazzling Gleam, though, it's fine. Moody attack boost. Ah, big missed opportunity to just click Sandsear. That would have done so much damage to both. I'm kind of shocked that they did not respect that. Like, I thought they'd at least Tera, because my whole game plan is if you Tera this, suddenly Extreme Speed and Electro Drift becomes so good. Smeargle can Spore. I can obviously pivot in Miraidon right now. Unfortunately, I think the Swords Dance is useless because this didn't Tera. So... leaning towards fake out Magearna, switch Miraidon in to turn off Spore. Yeah, that was a really nice Smeargle switch in. I think if I just stayed, it's like hard not regretting staying in and just clicking Sandsear. Sandsear would have been so huge for us there. They're actually going to Tera, so probably Tera watered that Magearna. This is what I was hoping to see, like, turns ago, but at least we finally force it out, which means now you are weak to Miraidon. Fake out, flinch. Nicely done. This is a really good deck rate by them. I really like how my opponent played this game. I think, honestly, part of what they might be thinking is even if you Sandsear me, like, I'm still in okay shape, because I assume it doesn't one-shot either. This is Sash, and this is bulky. Oh, man, how do we come back from this now? Because you get a free Dazzling Gleam off. And it's Magearna double redirection as well. I think I will U-turn here, switch into Arceus. I really like how my opponent played this game. Like, I think that turn 2 was really nice, and then the deck rate play was also really nice instead of going for Spore. Okay, Gleam. This doesn't KO us. That defense boost is actually so annoying. But I can go into Landorus and then Steel Tera this to resist your attacks, right? This gets more and more boosted up. Just Special attack. Attack drop. Last turn of Trick Room. My opponent did such an awesome job playing this game. Yeah, I think Steel Tera, Sansir here. Forget. Maybe Instant in right now? Sacrifice that? Steel Tera, Sansir, Instant in. It just sucks that I Sword Stance initially and then they didn't Tera, and then I swapped out and then they Terra'd immediately. My whole hope was to bait them into Terraing on turn 2. Hoping here they just go Dazzling Gleam and then Spore into Landorus. The reason you'd Spore Landorus is because despite Electric Terrain being up, it's not grounded. But now Steel Tera makes it grounded. And they just follow me, that's also fine. Okay. Yep. Oh my gosh, it still does so much damage. It's +6 Magearna, and I could totally miss Sansir as well. And I missed. You know what I needed to do in this game? I think I had a safe opportunity to just Tera Landorus on turn 2. But I was like hoping to stall out Trick Room turns, which is why I didn't Tera it. Like I was hoping they would play offensively and then like double up onto Landorus. I kind of have to go to Mirai down here, but they get another Trick Room up. Like with that miss, unless we high roll Sansir into Indeedee, actually. I don't know what that roll is. It looks just around 50%, so if a Sansir KOs, then we actually just win the game with Sansir plus Drift. But I think Indeedee is going to survive with like 5%, unfortunately. Yeah, otherwise, like, if the Sansir connected, maybe Sansir plus Dazzling could have knocked this out. Yeah, they go for Follow Me. Sansir does connect. Yeah, it survives. Like, maybe it's correct to Volt Switch there because we just don't assume we'll never ever knock out Indeedee, and maybe Specs Volt Switch still knocks out Magearna, but now they get Trick Room up a second time. I think, like, we had the pieces right. I like, huge props to my opponent because I think they played really well, and I also think on turn 2, to cover for the switch out option, it's correct to just Tera Steel Landorus in retrospect. Yeah. Tera Steel would have been like a game-winning play. Well, not a game-winning play, but it would have given, like, especially because they didn't Tera their Magearna, right? So Smeargle would have been brought down to Sash, Magearna would have been much lower as well, enough where another Sansir would have finished it off. If I had Volt Switch there, I would have been able to bring out Arceus as well. Yeah, but I don't think it matters, because this is +6. Yeah. Yeah, I've got no out here. You just Glacial Dazzling everything. If we deny the second Trick Room, I mean, it all came down to whether or not Indeedee would have fainted, right? So maybe that also meant if I Earth Powered on turn 1 rather than Sansir, but I think I like Sansir because I need to force the Tera out or a Protect out. But yeah, I think if I were to replay this game, the main turn I would turn to is turn 2. And then, like, let's talk about the Pokemon that didn't come out in this matchup. Like, you could theoretically bring the Farigiraf to reverse Trick Room, but then it's kind of a liability into Magearna, to be honest. It doesn't do very much. Although I think Farig Landorus as a lead could make sense, because turn 1 I can just go Helping Hand plus, like, Sansir Storm, turn 2 Sansir Storm reverse Trick Room. So I think that's one possible approach. Chien-Pao didn't come out. It's very bad, in my opinion, into Magearna. And, like, I think they did a really good job identifying that Smeargle was the right 4th option for support. That was nicely done as well. So I don't know if I love Chien-Pao, but Focus Sash means that at least gets to stick around for a little bit longer. And then Arceus just didn't get to accomplish anything in this game. My hope, basically, was bait them into Terraing and then be able to spam Extreme Speed, but not only did they not Tera early, they also conserved Indeedee, which meant that I could just come back in and block Extreme Speeds. So yeah, I think my opponent honestly just played that fantastically. This is a pretty uphill matchup to begin with, and I don't hate the approach that I ended up taking, but yeah, if there's one turn when I'm really thinking about it, it's the turn with Landorus and switching out when they switched out, because I could have just gone Steel Tera there, but very nicely done by them to accelerate the pace of the game. Koraidon, Miraidon, Water Ogre, Pond, Hands, Flutter Mane, Volk. Where are the mythical Pokemon? Hands and Flutter, like double fighting plus Flutter is a little bit scary for Arceus. That being said, it's still quite good. Especially because we can one-shot things with Sword of Rune after Swords Dance. So I'm leaning towards Instant Arceus, Chien-Pao, Miraidon. Landorus is potentially acceptable here, but having Scarf isn't that helpful when Flutter Mane can just Icy Wind us. I think I'm okay with these four. Flutter is going to be the main concern. It's like, I think if you, like, Flutter plus Fighting type, right? So Flutter plus Koraidon, Flutter plus Iron Hands is spooky. What I normally want to do is, if it's Instant, Flutter, Korai lead, fake out Korai, Swords Dance turn 1, then switch in Chien-Pao, Extreme Speed turn 2. But yeah, like, Focus Sash Flutter, I think if preserved well, is a huge nuisance. It's going to be Flutter Volt, though. I don't mind that too much. Mainly because I don't feel like I'm facing too much offensive threat right now. Could fake out Volk. I'm actually thinking about knockoff Flutter Mane Swords Dance turn 1. I don't think like Volk is going to do much to scare me. I guess other than Will-O-Wisp. If you're running super support Volcarona with Will-O-Wisp, that can be a problem. But basically the logic behind this play is, they just go for Gleam. That's fine. The logic is +2 Arceus one-shots everything other than Flutter Mane. They're going to double up into us, but I'm not taking that much damage from this still, right? Yeah, like I'm not even under half. Great. Probably removing Focus Sash here. Yeah. So my only concern now would be a defensive Tera from Flutter Mane, but what I want to do is just U-turn Flutter Mane and protect with Arceus. I could also send normal Tera Extreme Speed onto Volk, but I think the one play that they could do to counter that would be protect Volk, Tera, Flutter Mane, and KO Arceus. And if we knock out Flutter Mane, I think Arceus then is just really in amazing shape. So, just Gleam. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could have gotten a double knockout here, but I think if I were in my opponent's shoes, I'd feel like I'm behind in the game, and so the comeback play would be to Tera Flutter Mane and just try to one-shot the Arceus. So I didn't want to give them room to make that play. Do I want to bring in Miraidon or Chien-Pao is the question now. I think I'm okay with Miraidon, because Miraidon is just a nuke onto whatever they could bring out. And we're max speed. It's going to be Koraidon from there, okay? I mean, I think with this, I'm happy to just go normal Tera E-Speed Draco Meteor. Draco into you, normal Tera. Actually, we should reverse it. Draco into you, normal Tera, E-Speed into you. My main fear here would be max speed, Koraidon, Volcarona protects or has a defensive Tera like Steel Ghost. And otherwise, this should just be 2 knockouts. Or I miss Draco Meteor, that would be bad too. Okay, Koraidon just protects, but that means Volk should just feign, and then next turn I just switch in Chien-Pao, Extreme Speed, Koraidon. Double protect, okay. Fine by me. Cool. Draco, Extreme Speed once more. Now that you protected both Pokemon, it's even harder, because your best bet is double protect. Okay, it is going to be Tera. On Koraidon into fire. I mean, that's fine. Draco should still KO them. Okay, so here's the extreme speed into Volcarona. Beautiful, one hit KO. That's out of the way. Nice, you just move first. Beautiful. And that's a KO, sick. Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring Miraidon out first. Chien-Pao is nice, but if Koraidon Terras, then Chien-Pao's actually pretty bad into 2 fire types, right? Whereas Miraidon can just one-shot Koraidon, Volcarona, or Miraidon. Miraidon's their last one. You can just switch into Chien-Pao here. Extreme speed. I think their lead was just pretty passive, honestly. I feel like there's so much firepower from Koraidon, Fluttermane, and Miraidon, and Volcarona is like the most passive out of the 4 that they brought. So it's like Fiery Dance did 25%, right? Like turn 1 they did 40% onto Arceus, and I got a Swords Dance up and did so much damage to Fluttermane. It's just when you're playing against Fluttermane with this team, you want to eliminate it sooner than later because the immunity to extreme speed is kind of annoying, but we have bulk on Arceus, which is really great. The main thing that's scary is if you're like end up trying to attack into Fluttermane, they protect a bunch. But yeah, I think, you know, it would have been scary if it was like Moonblast Overheat on turn 1. I'm not even sure that KOs us, to be honest, with Arceus being just so incredibly bulky. But with turn 1, like us not losing very much at all, like I said, once Flutter's out of the way, you can just extreme speed everything. So yeah. Miraidon, Zamazenta, Pow, Ogerpalm, Volcarona, Grimmsnarl. We've shown the blueprint to beating Zamazenta, but can I take the same approach here? In dropping Arceus? Landorus looks really good. Last time we played against this, it was Pow, Lando, Miraidon, Incin. I don't mind that, but I am very worried about Grimmsnarl setting up screens. So I'm actually thinking about Incin, Miraidon lead, maybe? I do think it's probably correct to drop Arceus once again in this matchup. Okay, I'm gonna go Incin, Miraidon. Pow, Landorus. I think the upside is it's like Landorus and Chien-Pao's damage output often feels akin to that of a restricted Pokemon. So, yeah. Like, Arceus just needs a Swords Dance, and I think it's going to be very difficult getting a Swords Dance up. That being said, given my opponent's lead, Incin Arceus actually would have worked. But this is also fine, because I can just fake out Fairy Tera Dazzle turn 1. Honestly, the question is whether or not I go for Fairy Tera, because I think we also could just go fake out Volt Switch. But I think I'm down to just Fairy Tera here. My concern is Ghost Tera from this, but yeah, let's just deny them screens. Landorus and Chien-Pao are both also crucial in beating the Zamazenta. And they're not Scarf Miraidon. They are Terra Ghosting. Nice job to recognize that. Oh, never mind. It's Terra Electric. Okay. I'm so used to playing with slow Miraidon that I was like, if my Miraidon Terra's first, then they can't be. I wonder if it's Covert Cloak, actually. Dang. And they're probably Assault Vested too, so I'm actually gonna do like no damage to Miraidon. Still decent damage. That was a crit, yeah, that's an AV Miraidon for sure. And they're Electro Drifting me in return. Cloak is one of the best items in Best of 1 ladder. Incin does manage to survive though, which is nice. But now you can Thunder Wave me and Electro Drift. I want to switch in Landorus then, actually. U-turn. You. Switch in Landorus. Yeah. Maybe I should have just gone Fake Out into Miraidon. Because, like, I don't know. But people do run Covert Cloak Miraidon as well. So. Yep. T-Wave, and Drift into it. Perfect. Pivot out. And now I have Scarf Landorus with Earth Power on the field. So this is honestly still not bad for us. Could be a lot worse. Let's think about what they can bring out right now. Zamazenta, Volcarona, Water Ogre Pawn. The question is, do I want to go into Chimpower Miraidon? Because it's Scarf Landorus here, we'll move first. I think I don't mind Miraidon because it can one-hit KO so many things. I guess Light Screen is up, so it takes away the one-hit KO pressure, but it's still good. But yeah, it's nice to bait the T-Wave play. Okay, they bring in Chien-Pao. I have a free Earth Power here. The thing is, with them having Tera, this is just so incredibly good in the late game. And we know Zamazenta should be in the back for my opponent. I could just Dazzling Gleam Sandsear Storm right now is the thing. I just risk missing Sandsear. But it just seems like such a high value Sandsear to click. And it hits both. Nice. I think we should win off of that then. Dazzle should KO both here. Part of the calculus there, by the way, is knowing that I'm max speed Miraidon as well. And so if you're not max speed Chien-Pao or I win a speed tie, the game is immediately over. And even with us losing the speed tie, I think it's still fine because it's a 3v1 now and I have Sacred Sword Chien-Pao in the back. Sweet. But yeah, if I went Arceus in this game, instant Arceus would have worked. I would just fake out Miraidon Swords Dance turn 1, but then they'd probably just switch into Zamazenta. So then it's like, okay, I have Swords Dance, now what do I actually do with it, right? I just think Arceus, like, is such a liability in this matchup. Okay, so we know that they should have the Zamazenta in the back. Tera's already been committed. I have Sacred Sword here. I mean, I think it's fine to just switch an Instant first. Because it gives us Intimidate. And you can't Ghost Terror your way out of this, so I can just go fake out, switch Miraidon out into Chien-Pao. I mean, there's no way Zom can win a 3v1 from here, I think. Yeah. Turn 1 was not great because they had the surprise Covert Cloak, but instant surviving was huge. So, I hope with this and the other Zamazenta match, it's taught you all how you can approach a matchup that's really bad for Arceus. And the solution is often just dropping Arceus. We're playing against so many Reg I teams here. We've got Sableye and Ice Rider with Miraidon, Volk, Raging Bolt, and the Smeargle. It's funny to see Sableye but no Darkrai. But Sableye is a problem for Arceus. I'm also wondering if Smeargle's even running Spore. It's not that common to see Smeargle paired with Miraidon. I think Tera Steel Landorus actually is viable here. I think Sableye is always just such a wild card because we don't know what kind of moves it's running. I mean, if Arceus sets up a Swords Dance here and knocks out everything other than Sableye, so in my head I'm like, maybe we try to knock out Sableye as quickly as possible. I'm thinking Arceus Miraidon. I'm just a little bit worried about Ice Rider under Trick Room, but if I get a Swords Dance up, it's probably not that much of an issue. I think Instant's probably the safer bet, but Scarf Landorus is actually really tempting here, especially because it's Steel Tera. Let's see what they go with. Bolt Miraidon. Wow, Scarf Lando would have been amazing as a lead here. It's still not bad though, right? Like, let's see whose terrain goes off first. I'm mainly curious if their choice scarfed. Theirs does go off first. Okay. So, you're either max speed or you're scarfed. Booster energy. I mean, a thunderclap from this is gonna hurt, but extreme speed is higher priority. Surely they don't just Scarf Draco, right? Like, the safe play for me is protect Fairy Tera Dazzling. But they low-key might just Thunderclap Mirai on turn 1. And double in, like, Volt Switch Thunderclap. Which would be a sick play. I think I'm actually down to Protect Switch and Instant turn 1. Because, like, Instant gives me Fake Out Pressure turn 2, and I get to see what Miraidon wants to click on turn 1. And we likely bait out a Tera from their end as well. No Tera. Interesting. You don't need a Tera if you're Scarfed. But they just drifted into Arceus. Wow, okay. Draco Meteor? Dragon Pulse? I feel like Fairy Tera Dazzling Gleam would have just been a double KO there, turn 1. It's kind of nuts to think about. I'm down to go Swords Dance here, Fake Out into Miraidon. They flinch. Assuming they Thunderbolt Arceus. They Thunderbolt Instant. I feel like that honest... Oh, an Instant survive. I actually would have preferred Instant to faint there, but it's whatever. If it faints, it's a free switch into Miraidon, and I can just go, like, extreme speed. I actually might go for a Protect here, then. U-turn. I want the free switching into my Miraidon right now. But yeah, I'm shocked that they risked me just going Fairy Tera Dazzling Gleam on turn 1. And they actually double up in Arceus. Cool. So I get a free switch in. I'll take that. Nice. I think with this, I can go bring out Miraidon. It's normally going to be Electric Tera on Bolt with Booster Energy. Happy to normal Tera, extreme speed, Draco Meteor now. But I don't regret how I played turn 1. I think, yeah, it's tempting to go Fairy Tera Dazzling Gleam, but if I were my opponent, I actually would have doubled up onto Miraidon with Thunderclap plus, like, Draco or Volt Switch. And I was like, I know you have Electric Terrain up and Booster Energy. If you... Especially because we saw their Miraidon's ability activate first. But yeah, they don't protect the Tera either, so this should be a double knockout if we hit Draco. Perfect. And it's nice that because they doubled up into Arceus, I even keep Incineroar around. Okay, we don't miss. Missing would have been really costly there. And I was a little bit worried about Fairy Tera Bolt, but I just feel like you don't really run Fairy Tera Bolt these days. It was very common in the non-restricted formats because you would use Calm Mind Bolt, but with so many people using Life Orb or Booster Energy Bolt, you just want to maximize your damage output, so you go Electric Tera, which is also a good defensive Tera. Calyrex plus Volcarona. Cool. Don't mind that. And I have Chien-Pao in the back, so I can just go E-Speed into Calyrex, pivot out into Pao. Yeah, I think the Thunderbolt onto Instant rather than Thunderbolt onto Arceus was huge, although I assume it probably doesn't knock us out anyway. Okay, they just Rage Powder, that's fine. Even if they burn us, I think the game's over. You just can't handle all 4 Pokemon at once. Rocky Helmet. Actually, hold on. You can Glacial here. Okay, it doesn't KO. Arceus, nice. Also, yeah, Chimp always survives, so I don't think there's actually anything to worry about. Extreme speed, and we'll just sucker here. The only thing that can help is, you know, if you're like Ghost or defensive Tera, but then Sucker would still do super effective damage, and then Instant plus Miraidon has infinite damage as well. So, to me, I think, yeah, my opponent never Terra'd, which I was a little bit surprised by, and, like, they let me get the Swords Dance off, which was the biggest part of this equation, without punishing Arceus. And so Arceus, if you get a Swords Dance boost off and you don't take any damage, you often will be able to just win the game. And knowing that their Miraidon like couldn't protect and was choiced was also a really big deal. I guess theoretically they could have been non-choice max speed Miraidon, but that's just not that common. Magearna, Iron Jugulus, Rhyperior, Indeedee, Urshifu, Kyogre. This is a really cool team. I hate this for us. This matchup looks so bad on paper. What do I do? Like, Rhyperior, Fairy Tera means Miraidon is useless. Arceus is blocked by Magearna, Indeedee, so it's like our restricteds actually feel very poor, which means I need to use the non-restricteds. Maybe it's something like Miraidon Landorus. The thing is, they have a Trick Room mode and a Fast mode as well. I don't think Frigg does much for us here. The thing is, it's like, I feel like I want Instant for Magearna, but it's quite awful into almost everything else, so then it feels like it needs to be Arceus Chien-Pao. Maybe it's just Arceus Chien-Pao lead, Miraidon Landorus in the back. Like, get a Swords Dance up and then Extreme Speed everything that's not named Magearna. My fear with Miraidon Landorus lead is they just go Jugulus Kyogre. Kyogre Ursh. I guess this is okay from the perspective I can just Extreme Speed Sucker Punch turn 1, but either Pokemon could protect, switch. It's not Scarf Ogre. I'm just worried about this being Sash. Oh, they could also just switch in Indeedee immediately right now. Do we think they didn't bring Rhyperior? Wow, I'm actually kind of shocked to see this lead. The Indeedee switch in here would be so strong for them. Is that Indeedee in for Kyogre? Ah, well done. So they dropped one of Rhyperior or the Magearna. And I thought both would come out in this matchup. Maybe, yeah, maybe it should have just been the Miraidon Landorus lead I was thinking about initially. Like, swapped it around, but I think this shows the downside of leading Arceus when your opponent has terrain control. Okay, but it's Scarf Ursh, which I actually think is beneficial for us here. I can go to Miraidon. Is it beneficial, actually? Go to Miraidon. Honestly, I think the right answer in this matchup is I have to get 2 knockouts sooner than my opponent to force Indeedee to hit the field. So, yeah. But, like... yeah. Landorus Miraidon lead would have been a lot stronger. But it's like... see, they use the bluff of Rhyperior to make me scared of Miraidon, or, yeah, to bring Miraidon, but then, like, Fairy Tera Miraidon's still decent in this matchup, right? That being said, I think this gives us a window of opportunity. I think Indeedee pivots out now as you Surging Strikes. I'm gonna Swords Dance. Volt Switch. Indeedee stayed in. Trick Room then is my guess. Which meant if I actually one-shot Indeedee with Drift and Swords Dance, that may have just been a game-winning play. I'm shocked they didn't swap Indeedee out. Wow. But that may have just won them the game as well, right? Because they're probably Trick Rooming now. And if you Trick Room and get Kyogre out under Trick Room, well, I'm straight out of luck. Yeah, my opponent took a very different approach in Team Preview here than I expected, but it worked out really nicely. Like, I was respecting Jugulis, Kyogre lead, Magearna, like, Magearna and Rhyperior in Team Preview. Magearna, Rhyperior, Indeedee as a trio just, I think, is really terrifying. But, yeah, I probably should have just leveraged Landorus lead. I was just so scared about leading Landorus into Jugulis, Kyogre, but, I mean, I guess with Jugulis, Kyogre, it's like you're really Miraidon weak, right? Maybe they brought Rhyperior fourth over Magearna. That could actually also make some sense. Oh, interesting. They actually brought Magearna in first over Kyogre. I felt like if they brought Kyogre out there, I would just lose, right? But now I can at least extreme speed. Earth power. I mean, I probably still lose because unless I one-shot both Mons. That's my only hope. Or if they threw in Kyogre. I think they just tossed the game. If they literally just went in Kyogre after setting up Trick Room, I have no way to stop Follow Me plus their damage. I mean, I'd probably still get swept by Magearna, actually, in retrospect. Never mind. Mainly because it gets to chain the special attack boosts. Oh, and it's a Flare Cannon as well. Ah, that's a great play by my opponent. Alright, never mind. I don't know if Landorus is ever bulky enough to take that if we have bulk, but we don't have bulk. So I like that. You sacrifice and then get a special attack boost. I just thought maybe, like, I didn't think about Flare Cannon specifically. I was like, well, I don't think I'm getting one shot on Landorus, and then so if I Earth Power KO you in return, suddenly then it's a 3v1 with Indeedee as your last one. But Flare Cannon specifically being used over like Flash Cannon or Dazzling Gleam is the game changer here. You're at neutral. Can I survive Flare Cannon? Because if so, I'm thinking I go extreme. Like, I don't want to give it a special attack boost, basically. But it might not end up mattering. Protect Electro Drift is what I'm thinking. But they Helping Hand, which means it's probably just going to Miraidon. Which is the correct play, because it's like, I can't hit the Magearna with Arceus. Oh, but they went for Dazzling. Is there any world in which I survive Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam? I have no bulk on this. I don't think so, but and their play makes a lot of sense, because if I had clicked Extreme Speed into Indeedee, it would have given them the special attack boost, so then Helping Hand Dazzling gets the double knockout. But that's why I specifically did not click Extreme Speed there. But yeah, I honestly feel like I should have just lost this game as soon as they set up Trick Room. Like, the fact we won in this matchup is actually kind of nuts. But I'll take it. But basically, yeah, it's like they had the opportunity to just go for Kyogre in immediately, and then just click Water Spout. And I'm kind of shocked they didn't do that. Ooh, opposing Arceus, Miraidon, Rock Pond, Incin, Chien-Pao, Dragonite. Very cool team. I have no idea what to expect from the Arceus, because it's not normal Arceus. Landorus looks good. I mean, they've got a lot of priority on their end, so I'm like, do I want to bring Farigiraf? It's just so weak into Incin and Miraidon, so the answer is probably no. Lando, Pao, Miraidon, Arceus. I'm just worried about Scarf on their end, but I think I'm down for this. But I think we could have gone instant lead, like fake out into Swords Dance turn 1. Just worried about going up against Mirai. Yeah, they go instant Mirai. This isn't that great for me, right? Frig lead would have been better here. Question is whether or not they respect Scarflando on turn 1. But I think I'm probably good to actually Tera Landorus anyway. Sanseer. Protect here. This covers for anything they could do other than a really rogue fake out into Chempao, like Draco Meat, no, Electro Drift and Landorus, but that would be crazy, right? The problem is I am probably not getting an attack off on turn 1 here, but it's okay. Okay, we force Tera out from their end. So they Tera Miraidon. And we know that they are not Scarfed, which means now my Miraidon can just Electro Drift them, which is good. Which is probably going to be fake out into Lando, but that's fine. Okay. Please don't miss. Nice. Oh my goodness, that's such a good start for us. And they went Gleam too. Wow. I think maybe they were just making kind of a hard prediction, thinking Landorus was going to protect there, but we are Scarf Landorus, so I can't even protect. Arceus Miraidon in the back. Happy to click Sanseer once more. I think I'm down to just Sanseer Ice Cold Crash. Just a little bit nerve-wracking because I can miss either Sanseer, but I think it's still worth going for. Especially with it being Specs Miraidon, what it looks like. They're going to have Arceus +1 as the 4th. Instant hard switches, that's fine. Into Rock Ogerpon. We do miss Sanseer. Ah, on Miraidon, unfortunately. Okay. But I'm not getting KO'd by Dazzling anyway, so I think it's still okay. We can always flinch or crit here as well. They do get the Dazzling off, but honestly, could be much worse. Like, both Pokemon survive. It's just, it felt like we had the game won if we hit there, but I can't count on hitting every Sanseer. We're lucky to even be in this position to begin with. Miraidon Arceus in the back. If you're my opponent, you should probably protect... Oh, you can't protect. You can protect this and switch this out, but I think I'm always happy to Sanseer here. Their last one's going to be Arceus. They've already Terra'd. I think I'm down to just Sanseer Ice Cold Crash to hedge off missing Sanseer. Like, they have nothing for Scarf Landorus. That's why you use Scarf Lando on this kind of team. I just get to spam this so nicely. They are going to pivot out. Yep, it's their Arceus. Spiky Shield. I guess the main thing now is if they have extreme speed. Like, I really don't know what they're carrying on this set. Ah, we do this again. Okay. That is frustrating. Because that would have been super effective damage. If we think they're E-speeding, I don't mind switching out into Arceus. Ice Cold Crashing Ogerpon right now. I've gotten so much damage across the board, but it's still not a win yet, right? But I think it was absolutely the correct decision to lock into Sanseer still. Maybe it would have been better to just Earth Power, but I don't know. Like, Sanseer is just... It's doing so much damage to everything. Okay, no extreme speed from their end. We knock out Ogerpon. That's out of the way. Okay. It's Trick Room. I don't love that, but it's like Instant Arceus I don't think scares my Miraidon that much, and they actually bring out their Miraidon, huh? Which I don't mind that much. Last turn of Electric Terrain. I think this should hard switch into Incineroar right now, personally. I've got Life Orb Extreme Speed, so I don't mind Extreme Speeding here. And I think because Trick Room is up, I should never expect to get an attack off with Landers, so I'd actually rather switch Chempa out into Landers to reset the Intimidate. They're staying in with Miraidon, so I should just KO that, right? To which then my Miraidon looks really good in the end game. Yeah, kind of shocked they didn't bring Instant out first here. You'd have Fake Out, but I still don't know what their Arceus is trying to do, so... Just Judgment, okay. I feel very judged. Judgment, Trick Room. That's all we've seen. Instant out. Fake Out available to them now. Flare Blitz available to them. I mean, could reset the Intimidate here. I think Miraidon should beat this in the end game, I'm hoping. Just don't know what other moves it's carrying. Leaning towards protecting here and just sacrificing Landorus. Okay, Fake Out. I mean, you have to knock out Landorus here. So as you're not boosting your stats, then I don't feel that threatened. Yeah, that's fine. I think the main debate here is, oh, do I maybe pivot Miraidon in? But I don't love that. I think here now I can go out into Chien-Pao. I mainly didn't want to throw Miraidon away from some random damage I wasn't expecting from their end. So now I can go Extreme Speed plus Sucker Punch into you. And I think with Sword of Ruin, even with Intimidate, Life Orb, it's a KO onto Incin. Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. And they'll get one more attack off with Arceus, but then I think Miraidon wins. Unless this Arceus has some, like, ultra attack into Miraidon that one-shots me. To which then it actually would have been correct to switch Landorus out into Miraidon to stall out one more turn of Trick Room, and then pivot back into Landorus. Last turn of Trick Room. Very Terra'd. Electro Drift. Sucker Punch. Trick Room is cool. Not bad damage. Okay, it's just Judgment. We should survive this. Nice. But the game felt harder than it needed to be because, like, Landers was my real restricted Pokemon in this matchup. Sandsear into everything. They had 2 fire types and Instant plus Arceus. On Miraidon, it's like triple. Like, everything just took over 50% from Sandsear, right? And even, like, turn 1 alone, we gained a huge advantage where I think they were just trying to go all in on Chien-Pao. And I think you don't need to go all in on Chien-Pao when you have the Fake Out and the Intimidate onto it, because Chien-Pao's never really doing that much damage anyway. So in my head, I was like, they're definitely going to Fake Out Landers, but that's fine. With Steel Terra, at least I know I can survive the turn and then pressure with more damage afterwards. But then we had a huge advantage. The misses gave my opponent a window of opportunity to come back in. But yeah, I think Fire Arceus is just not the biggest damage dealer here. And so despite them setting up Trick Room, they couldn't actually leverage too much damage under Trick Room. And I also think they may have been better off switching an Instant first over the Miraidon, because Miraidon just fainted immediately to E-Speed. So Arceus with that priority on our end was a really big deal, because it meant even with Trick Room being set up, I could still knock out Miraidon and almost knock out the Incineroar. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So hope you guys enjoyed this showcase of Arceus and why it is absolutely insane when utilized properly in competitive doubles. With Swords Dance, we were just one-shotting so many Pokemon left and right. And I mean, this team did reach rank #1 in the format. And so it's a very, very well-constructed team. And so thank you as always for watching. Thank you to the team creator for sharing. And I'll catch you all next time. All right. Peace.